Good morning, everybody. Seeing that we have a quorum, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Whatever, can you hear me?
We can all hear you. Well, I can hear you. Yes. Good morning, Steve.
Good. Lucky for you guys, I plan on being exceptionally funny today.
That'll be a new one.
Oh, Jim with the first zinger. Woo!
So, Steve, when you say you plan on being exceptionally funny today, is there any particular reason?
No, because I was just feeling kind of down and overburdened, so I thought I'd try to shake it off by being a little extra motivated.
Okay.
Yeah. Woo woo! We don't live in the Ukraine. How about that?
Well, Steve, I might be out of line in saying this, but so obviously one of the big stories this morning is what happened at the NFL game last night between the Bengals and the Bills,
Yeah,
and a young man almost losing his life.
yeah.
So this morning I'm listening to NPR, and so that was the lead story at the 8 o'clock hour after they did the headlines, followed by the bombing that Ukraine did on where a number of Russian soldiers had just arrived to fight in the war, and anywhere from like 63 to a couple of hundred of them were killed. And I thought about, obviously the lead story about this young man who almost lost his life on a football field is definitely newsworthy, especially because it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation we're talking about that has tens of millions of eyeballs watching games every weekend. But then I'm thinking about, well, these young men, Russian men, probably around the same age as this athlete or younger, have just lost their lives. And it just, I don't know how to even process all of that. And maybe I shouldn't have even brought it up, but it's been on my mind ever since this morning. I just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah, I dig that kind of stuff, Harry. That's what makes us human. That's awesome stuff right there. We need to keep contemplating those things to drive us forward and make us better creatures of our being, you know. I'm with you. Those 14 kids had mothers too, and they probably were no too happy to be wherever they were. So,
and Harry, it also is a little bit timely in that the football player died last night, and the news regarding the Russians is several days old. But
yeah.
Well, the football player didn't die last night. He had cardiac arrest, but he's in a serious condition. His condition's been stabilized at the hospital, but he's in serious condition.
Yeah.
And that item that I just gave with regard to the Russian soldiers, I don't know. It seemed like it was fairly current, and I know we need to get on with this meeting, but whether it's fairly current or days old, we're still talking about, at this particular point, a couple of hundred human beings have lost their lives that were young men who were just beginning to live their lives.
Yes.
And also, Harry, there's no news about the other wars throughout,
Right. That's why I was going to be funny today, because I needed a little.
Let me add one more. Let me add one more.
Say something funny.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one's a work-related injury, and the other ones are sort of taking a position on the stand on one thing or the other. And the work-related injury seems to be the top news gathering.
Yeah. This is why I miss in-person meetings, because I feel like, oh, we're on a computer screen. We really shouldn't have this on a computer screen. Kitty's over there with her hand on her mouth going, oh, I haven't called the meeting to order though, correct? Yeah.
That's right.
All right. I'm happy everybody's here. I could not be happier to live in Cambria, in this enclave of peace and harmony. I wish I could do more for the general welfare of our being. Anyway, I'm going to call it to order. We have a quorum. I don't have a chair report. committee member communications. Anybody have anything?
I do.
Kermit?
Well, I would like to continue my tirade on reorganization and groups of things. But I'd also like to talk a little bit about who's doing the agenda today. Is Joyce coming or?
Ooh, hey, that's a great point. Way to stop it right there. Carlos has reported that he can't be here. He's got storm-related stuff going on. Joyce isn't going to be here. I am the minutes taker. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that one of the things I would suggest that we look at doing is at the end of every meeting, we all sit around and discuss the next agenda. Because every time we have it, you know, the minutes are supposed to carry forward and carry the weight of stuff. And sometimes we talk about something, we sort of leave it till next thing. Sometimes it gets included, others. But I think it would make sense if we, since the bylaws, I've read the bylaws amazingly, and they're just amazing. A whole new.
Yeah, they're amazing. It's actually good information.
Yeah, and the whole idea of the bylaws was the fact that you could, or we're supposed to carry forward to the staff leader items of the agenda. But I would suggest that at the end of every meeting, that actually some of the discussion is meaningless. But I think you mentioned it, Steve, if we didn't make an actual motion or something, it really didn't need to be there. But if we have items to be agenda, we ought to sit around and the last thing we do before we sign off is go over what is the next agenda. Are there items to be continued on the next agenda? So if we have a discussion on it and if it's still alive, we make it part of the next agenda. That's just a thought, and it could possibly cut down the length of the meeting, because most of the stuff in the minutes is sort of irrelevant, actually. And then,
Okay, I personally like that idea. That makes it easier on staff and for everybody. Is somebody have an administrative problem with that? Kitty, does that sound feasible to you? Yeah, all right. Good. Well, let's do that. Keep what do you want to ingrain it in the bylaw? No. Kermit? No. Okay.
I have other things to add on the committee.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Going over, you know, we talked about what's the purpose here, and I've gone over and I left a piece of paper over there, but it had to do with the bylaw minutes. And let me grab this thing. And when we talk about what we're doing, the purpose, the bylaws have a pretty good guideline. The purpose of the commission to serve the public with respect to parks, recreation, and open space, and access existing resources and gather information regarding parks, open space, and recreational needs of the community. Establish collaborative working relationship with relevant public and private organizations. Create plans for meeting the needs of the community within the bounds of current and potential resources. Anticipate needed funding for proposed actions and identify potential resources. Recommend plans of actions to the directors of the community services district regarding actions to meet the community needs for parks, recreation, and open space. Facilitate communication with the residents of Cambridge, both to update community parks, recreation, open space, and obtain community support for planned actions. And see, that's kind of my point, is I don't think we're doing these things because we're too small a committee, sort of based in our own space here. And we don't touch enough stuff to know what's going on. And I'm suggesting that kind of a reorganization I would suggest is that each committee member take a separate organization outside of themselves, like the historical commission, like a green space and so forth. Whatever outfit has land management capability or responsibilities, like the trust funds with occupy open space, own open space and manage it. And then we see what we can do for them to incorporate recreation of the community into their things and to blend them with ours, so that all of Cambria is looked at as a larger unit. And we try to get the recreation of the community bundled together into a common space, common trails, connected trails, pathways and so forth, so that we have this ability to look at recreation on a wider scale, other than just examine over and over again the things that are fairly well managed, which is the Fiscal Union Ranch. Got their own committee going. They have their you got Carlos on the maintenance part, but the other areas, the other nonprofits we could support and include into the umbrella of recreation. And the bylaws give us plenty of opportunity to do that. They don't just say follow Carlos along and advise him. They are talking about the community recreational open space. And so that's that, and the fact that we have our magnificent 1992 recreation plan that we really don't touch. We don't really pay attention to it. And when we look around our future goals and so forth, that's probably one of the things we ought to be doing. Okay, that's pretty much it.
Kermit, thank you. I can appreciate that frustration. Julie?
Good morning. Okay, Kermit, so I'm just summarizing. What I'm hearing is it would be nice to extend an invitation to all of these organizations to bring them into the fold of conversation. If nothing else, just to have them join the meetings to be able to, I mean, Steve runs a loose enough meeting for them to be able to add in. Is that correct? That's what
Well, it could work either way. Either we ask them to join us on as sort of ad hoc committee members, or we go out and chase them down and tell them we'd love to work with them, even if they keep hiding from us. We are here for Cambria, and not just Fiscal Union Ranch, and that's we're not blending. We should blend the community together, not just pick up a portion of it and examine it over and over again. Although that's what we'll do. We'll do both, but we certainly have that ability to reach out and combine other. And besides, if we talk about getting a grant writer, you're going to want to have support the other nonprofits as well as yourself, because it will work together better that way.
Kitty?
I agree that not enough of the community is being involved in these discussions. By far, it seems to me that no one from, as far as I know, no one from the schools who deals with children's recreation or sports is ever, I mean, only one time in the 3 years I've been on this committee has someone been brought in. So talk to us about what children in Cambria do and need, which seems to be one of the biggest goals, at least one Steve talks about a lot, for this committee, that we should serve the children of Cambria. And any meetings that we have, whether informal, formal, here, in person, whatever, I don't see any outreach to that community. And I don't see how we're going to develop the East Park without considering the people who are going to use it and getting their input. So I do think that wider community input would be very, very useful.
Julie, your hand is still up. Anybody?
No, I'm
gonna go ahead.
I want to add in right here to Kitty's point. So very happy to report that we have someone in the panelists today, Toby Sinque, who sits in that complete space of everything that's recreation for our school district. So I know at some point Toby will chime in. Thank you for joining us. The second thing is, in addition to engaging these organizations or nonprofits, I think, Steve, it would be very beneficial for us to be able to get on a monthly basis somebody from the county as a county liaison on these calls, because we talk about lots of great things, and when we talk about them, they could very quickly be flushed out if it's not something that's even able to be accomplished. So at least having their knowledge, it also keeps them engaged to know what we're working on, right? What might be coming down the pipe. So some type of county liaison, and one of us to be actively working with that liaison.
Yeah, Julie, that touched on the point that I was kind of hearing Kermit saying we need to get more involved with people in our community, and we're thinking we need to get more involved with the larger community of the parks in the county so that we can have better representation and know what's going on there. Is
Yeah, I
that
don't wanna-
correct?
Yeah, I don't want to spin our community's wheels on and our time. I mean, I want these to be viable projects that can come to fruition, which is what CCSD has taxed this ad hoc committee to do.
Mhm.
Tell us what the community wants, and, once you discover what they are they viable, right? Which is
Yeah.
what Kermit and myself and now Jim, and I don't know if this would be the appropriate time to chime in, Steve, but I'm happy to talk a little bit where we are with that ad hoc. That's entirely up to you. You let me know. when you
Now,
want.
let's hold on that. Adolph, go.
Okay, two things. Number one is this is third, excuse me, this is the third manager we've had to deal with on pros, at least during the time I'm on the board.
Wow.
And each of them seems to have a little bit different approach, and that's fine. Some are hands-on, some are not. Secondly, why don't we add on our agenda where we have the ex officio report, why don't we put a bullet after Kitty and Julie, put a bullet there and make that an open space where someone who has an idea can fill that third spot. And basically all they have to do really is give us like a 3-day notice or whatever, so we'll know who they are. And possibly do that each meeting and see if someone would show up and give their ideas of what they think Cambria community needs for recreational purposes.
You mean from the open or from the participants? Fill a spot or?
But what I'm saying is that people who have an idea on something, and once in a while we'll invite one in and they'll give whatever their idea is. I'm just saying that's just like our ex official reports in a sense. And we'll just add a third bullet and have that an open space that someone can, I guess, put some form of whatever it is in order to participate in our meeting.
Why
that way.
would that be different than just open public comment?
Only because I think if you have something that has that on there, that people who have these ideas realize that they do have a slot in which they can make a comment. Especially if they're involved in something already.
Jim?
Yeah, I agree with Adolph. And if you, the CCSD meetings, for instance, you have somebody from the police department, the sheriff's department gives a report and stuff like, and things like that. At the NCAC, they also have somebody for us to have somebody from Parks and Recreation that gives a report of what's going on Parks and Recreation throughout the county. I know that Beth is working with Parks and Recreation regarding the swimming pool, and if Adolph or if Kermit is working on trails to get an update on what's happening with trails in other areas. How much would the county want to fund or could fund some of these? Sometimes they're actually looking for projects to fund. So for them to be involved, at least on a quarterly basis, to give a report on what's going on in the county and listen to what's going on in Cambria would be beneficial. So I agree with Adolph on having somebody give a report or represent themselves at one of our meetings. It's only 1 hour a month, and an update would be very valuable. It's my thought.
And so what I'm hearing you saying, it's not really individual people coming with ideas, but we're listening to groups or people that have a larger representation, nonprofits, trail groups, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I think in what Kermit has always been saying is, hey, where's the county in this, and where is the funding for some of these things? I'm not necessarily on Kermit's side where he thinks that we should have the Historical Society involved. We shouldn't be going to the Historical Society. The Historical Society should say, hey, we need this for recreation on our facilities. How can pros help? Or we can say, look, we have a need. How can a nonprofit help us? We reach out to them to come to a meeting and so everybody can share the information. But yeah, somebody from the county, somebody that has votes or especially funds or budgets, those are the people we need to hear from.
Adolph, I'm gonna give you a little bit more and then we're gonna move on.
Right, just one comment. Since I've been on the board, we had basically three that I remember. The dog park was one. People talked about pickleball or whatever it was. That was another one. And the third was the swimming pool. And each of those folks had gathered a little organization that they were trying to push. That's where that little slot would come in handy.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on. Thank you for that committee member communication, ex officio reports. That takes us Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch. Kitty,
Good morning. Happy New Year. That's what I say.
you.
Let's start with a Happy New Year.
Happy to.
Let's just end it now. The leash law signs are ordered, they're here in town and they'll be up soon. So I wanted to follow up on that from a previous report in late December. I've been on vacation. The Sierra Club sent a work group that were on vacation. They were on a working vacation, volunteer vacation. They spent a day on the ranch. They removed a bunch more ice plant. They staked the trees that we had planted in November, the little ones, and they did some planting. They planted 50 more trees out on the ranch, which was super nice. We planted, did a little bit of planting out on the bluff where some of the ice plant was removed before the rains, which is really helpful. The Main Street trash pickup was on December 15th. This is the 19th year that Fiscalini Ranch Preserve has been picking up trash on Main Street. So that's next year. I don't know how we'll celebrate because we can't have balloons or anything because it would be trash. So we'll have to celebrate in a way that doesn't leave any litter. We have Decent Walks, 2 Decent Walks coming up every month. There are a lot of fallen trees on the ranch from the rain. We expect a very large number of fallen trees coming up because the ground is completely saturated and we're expecting extremely high winds this week. So there will be many more fallen trees. Sorry to say, even healthy ones are going to fall. But the biggest deal on the ranch right now is people stealing mushrooms off the ranch. As you know, the ranch is a nature preserve. There's no collecting, no harvesting, no cultivating allowed on the ranch. It is a nature preserve. So they're ethical foragers check the rules before they go out of the locations where they intend to look for mushrooms. And ethical foragers do not forage where it's illegal to forage. It is illegal to forage on the ranch. And these rains have brought us many, many mushrooms, and they're kind of fantastic. If you haven't been out to the forest, definitely go out to the forest and you'll see, well, don't go this week because you'll get hit by fallen trees. But when you get a chance after the rain, go out to the forest. It's really wonderful. It's really quite wonderful, the number and diversity of mushrooms that are out there, but people have also been collecting them. They've been selling them. They've been collecting them, taking them down to Highway 1 or Tipton or Trenton and selling them off their trucks from the ranch. So this is not something that's obscure in any way. It's very blatant, making money off stealing public property and selling it. We're doing what we can to keep the consistent messaging. We do have a bunch of Decent Walks that feature mushrooms because they're really wonderful. But we don't encourage foraging and we don't allow foraging. It's not a how-to. They're not how-to. They're how to appreciate. I personally have been sent fantastic photographs of mushrooms. If you're a photographer, it's a great time to be out there. But it's just a recurring problem. There are signs at every entrance. There's the Fiscalini website. Our website has that on there, no collecting. CCSD website has a no collecting, and it's in the brochures. So there's ample information for people who are ethical collectors. Larger signs in different locations are not going to make any difference for people who are determined to put their own interests above public interest. So that's my report.
Questions?
Mhm.
Does the county have an ordinance or something like that for their own? Excuse me. Does the county have an ordinance on their side talking about stuff like foraging, et cetera, in their areas? And is there a fine involved if somebody does what you say they're doing?
I am unaware of the county laws. It's usually by public, it's on public lands. So I don't know. I know that county doesn't allow dogs on their public lands, basically. So I doubt they allow foraging. But because I'm not a forager, I think it's irresponsible behavior. So I don't really know that much about foraging. There's just too many human beings to live off wild, unreplenished organisms. The enforcement is the same as any enforcement in Cambria. It's the same system. This is a CCSD regulation that it's prohibited. It's under the management plan. So it has the same enforcement as no hand gliding on the ranch, which is also prohibited. Meaning if it gets reported, we go out there, we tell people they're not allowed to do it. By the time you get there, they're gone. And if they're not gone, they just say, I don't care. And they keep doing it. I'm telling you, the people who don't care about the rules, don't care about the rules.
Yeah, this is a conversation that I never thought I'd actually have. And so
It's my job, Steve. This is my job.
Yeah, I'm like,
I've got
okay,
a question for Kitty.
go ahead, Jim.
I don't know if you can answer this question, Kitty, but I've been looking for those monarchs.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I go to the Forest Loop Trail and they aren't there. And I went to Victoria Way, they aren't there. Where are they? And you don't have to tell me if you don't want to tell me.
Oh, no. I think for viewing the monarchs, as long as you're careful where you walk, so you don't walk on any of them, it doesn't really hurt them. You know where the monarch viewing is off the Forest Loop Trail, where the
Yes.
split rail fences? Stand there and look to the left, and you'll
Yeah.
see some trees with blue tape on them
Oh,
that
okay.
that it's like, I don't know, a little ways off.
Mhm.
And go over there, and that's where the monarchs are hanging out, or at least last time I looked.
Yeah.
Last time I was on the ranch, it was too late in the day to go. You have to go when it's cold. I don't know what's going to happen in this storm because there'll be no protection for them. I don't think the forest provides sufficient protection for 35-mile-an-hour winds, but we'll see.
Yeah, there used to be, right on the Forest Loop Trail where we could look right ahead and when I was in Santa Cruz and elsewhere, they would go to the same trees almost, the same set of trees. So you're saying
Yeah.
they're off to the left a little bit than they were in the past. And Victoria Way, it seems like there weren't any. Are they
There aren't any at Victoria Way. No, because the forest changes.
Okay.
So what they're looking for are trees that are sheltered from the wind, but get morning sun. So they need both of those things. So they move as the forest changes, they move to different locations. Some of the places where you've seen them, they're very, very large, long-lived trees. And Monterey pines are small, short-lived trees. So it's a kind of a dynamic situation. Every tree in the forest where monarchs have been found is marked by a piece of tape. And this year's color is a blue, sort of like this blue.
Thank you.
So I want this meeting to be over and not belabor it, but I just find this topic so interesting in discussing too, because I'm more worried about the butterfly than I am the mushroom. And I'm like, ooh, don't tell people about the butterfly. It just seems weird that we're all going to go tromping around out there looking for the butterflies when I'm like, dude, they're very, very fragile. Don't be out there walking around. Anybody could step on them, right? Shouldn't we be like more hands off on that? No.
There's no recipes for butterflies.
Butterflies, yeah.
The butterflies, well, think about Pismo.
I mean, it's
Thousands
so
and thousands of people have been going there for years,
Yeah.
looking at the butterflies. I mean, you look at the butterflies, you're not consuming butterflies.
Yeah, no. I've just, I've been out there and seen them, and I'm just like, it's such an awesome thing to witness. But
Yeah.
yet, like, if you step on one because you're looking up and not looking down, blah. Anyway, yeah. I was just so happy to hear that they're back in numbers of
Yeah.
significance.
Right.
It is very good news. Sorry, I'm a little bitter about the mushroom thing. It just keeps going on and on and on.
No, the interesting thing about I was having more of a larger interest in foraging in regards to the planet, not in regards to Fiscalini Ranch, because this is my land and I told you not to do it. That's the end of the story, right? I get to make the decisions on my land different than, the
Right.
forest out in the back. But anyway, thank you, Kitty, for your report. All right, Julie, that takes us into you. What do you have for us of interest?
Oh, exciting things happening in the skate park area of town. First, new banners have gone up on the park. Those banners were approved by President Dean. And so one of those banners you'll see says dropping into permit, because it has been reported, of course, on November 17th, our permit applications were submitted to the county. I did reach out to Ray. I know he's been very busy coming back from holidays. I have not heard from him in regards to the status of where those applications sit, but I know that we should be hearing back very shortly, because he felt back in November, it would be roughly about 30 days at least to get some type of reporting. So I'm pretty confident by the next meeting we have, I'll have more on the permit. We also ran our Q4 fundraising campaign, and that was actually to try to go after donors. I would like to stop and say thank you to all of those continued supporters, both on social media platforms as well as in our community, who continue to give and are extending communities. We had a donation come in for $10,000 over the weekend from a donor who has been extremely supportive out of our area, and also has their hand in a home here in Cambria. So that $10,000 will obviously get to the bank in the next day or two, but it just helps to show that the momentum and financial support continue. I'm also going to call on our community to please consider joining the Cambria Tourism Board meeting in February. We have an application that has been submitted to be reviewed on a substantial amount of funds that could help complement this project. So if you'd like to come join us, please just email me. I'm not hard to find, and I'll make sure to get you the proper information to get to the Cambria Tourism meeting to give us a shout out and some support. Let's see, banners, Q4, continuing fundraising efforts. Our next fundraiser is set for February 25th. It's been cleared with the Legion. It will be a pancake breakfast. Steve, you don't know that yet, but you'll be more than likely recruited to help. So please mark your calendar. It will be from 8 to 10. So don't eat breakfast on February 25th. Please save your appetite and come help the skate park, because every dollar going through those meals that day or pancakes will be coming right back. We did a fundraiser like this in Halloween 2 years ago and raised just short of $5,000. So we're excited to keep the community involved. That's why we want to keep those fundraisers going as well, is just education on the project. And if there's any questions, please hit me. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions for Julie? Boom. Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Harry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I just wanted to ask Julie. I know that the event was scheduled for this Saturday with regard to getting together to discuss once again what's going to be happening on the East Ranch and getting feedback from members of the community. And we met there, back in November. I am assuming that's planned again, even though it's supposed to rain on Saturday. So I just wanted to check in with you on that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I wanted to go in further detail on that. I know right now I'm reporting on the park, Harry. So I think Steve's going to give me a window of time a little bit later on the agenda for me to go specifically into ad hoc what we're calling ad hoc rec. And you let me know when you want me to do that, Steve. But right now I'm just reporting on.
We're gonna do that during regular business.
Okay, I got more to come on that, Harry. More to come. Thank you.
Perfect. Anybody else? Okay, into public comment. I see we've got 8 people over here, 9 or 10. Does anybody from the general public have something they'd like to comment on that's not on the agenda? Nobody has anything to say? Okay, we're gonna make a new rule that anybody that comes to a Zoom meeting has to make a 30-second remark on why they're here and what's the most important thing going on in Cambria in their lives. But
Well,
that's in the
Steve,
future. I won't hold anybody accountable to that. Harry, go ahead.
Steve, I just wanted to mention that Jeff Wilson had his hand up for quite a
Yeah.
while earlier, and he just put it up again. So
Yeah, okay,
Let's
Mr.
go on
Wilson,
to it.
I'm gonna allow you to talk. There you go. Mr. Wilson, can you hear it?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, terrific. Yeah, thanks very much. Appreciate it, Harry and Mr. Niffen. I just wanted to chime in on a prior comment about participation from the broader community and specifically some NGOs. I'm a board member of Green Space, and as part of our strategic planning, we specifically identified an important opportunity to collaborate with the Pros Commission. And I can safely say that we are committed to this throughout 2023 and beyond. So I just want to say the timing's great, and we look forward to collaborating, participating as a greater, I guess, a greater participation in pros. So thank you.
Good.
Right on, Mr. Wilson. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
I see Mr. Sinque. I'd like to hear from you. Thank you. Toby.
Hi, Steve. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was kind of listening in on the last pros meeting and heard a little bit about some of the stuff that was projected for the rodeo grounds. And just I contacted Julie because I know her well, and Steve, I've known you for a lot of years too. I just wanted to put my input in. Those of you that don't know me, I've been working as a physical education teacher in our district here in town for 25 years now, going on 26. And I've been an athletic director at the junior high and middle school for 24 of those 26 years. And Steve, I remember sitting in on a pros meeting with you about 20 years ago and talking about a disc golf course projection for that area down there. I think that'd be a great use of that space, as well as the recreation equipment trail rec program. I'm not sure exactly the terminology that you would use for that, but it's basically walk, jog, run a certain distance and then get onto a strength training machine to get some exercise on a path that is kept up. I think that'd be a great use for our community. There's not a lot of areas in town that if you're struggling with your balance or you're limited to a wheeled device where you could walk, where it'd be very easy. And I kind of say that right now because I've been on a knee scooter for the last 8 weeks recovering from a injury. So I'm kind of limited to where I can walk around on a flat surface easily. But anyway, I just wanted to put in my 2 cents on the use of that. As a PE teacher, I've been incorporating disc golf into my units for about 15 years at the middle school. I set up a course that is pretty simple, but we have a 9-hole course around campus and the kids really enjoy it. And I think that would be just another option for kids to do that would be little to no money up front for the students to participate in. And as far as fields down in that area, I know that's been a topic of discussion. It sounds like that's waning now, but in my opinion, I don't really see a need for more fields in town. If we needed another field, we could always turf the field that's on the lower portion of the grammar school. That field is underused right now. And that would be a great use if we needed another field in town. So anyway, just my 2 cents. I just want to throw that out there. And if anybody had any questions for me, I could answer them. And then just in the future too, I know it was mentioned here that you guys would like school input. On a normal week, I'm off on winter break right now, but on a normal week, Tuesday at 10 o'clock wouldn't be very conducive because I'll be in classes. So if you wanted to have school input you might need to make your meetings at a different time after school hours.
Great, Toby, thank you. I'm gonna comment on his comments, because first of all, the ad hoc thing where we want to include the school district at different times over the years, we have included them when there's work on our agendas that are specific to their facilities. And mainly Toby's reasoning right there is why it's tough to get school district participation. But I do want to say this, our schools are very involved with our stuff. When we need them or we have stuff that is specific, I find their inclusion to be automatic. So I'm not worried about them coming to a meeting every week, every month to be part of the ad hoc thing. And I want to thank him for his comments on the field. When he said that, I was like, okay, because that's kind of what I've been saying for the last 5 years is they're field heavy at the schools right now. They got space. Putting green grass on the East Ranch is really something that is not on the agenda in most of our lifetimes. And so that being said, thank you, Toby, for that. Okay, Jim, what do you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to Toby, or while Toby's still on here, my son is a big disc golf person and was excited about the opportunity. And I hope that I can spend some time with you on Saturday if you're going to be there. I think I'm part of that ad hoc committee, aren't I, Julie?
Yes, absolutely.
So talking about that, and Steve, I also agree with the fact that we don't need more fields as long as we have the grades, the middle school and the high school. But I don't know the ability for the school district to be able to allow public access on the tennis courts. They got like 6 of the darn things, and the fields, they have plenty of them. But how much public use can be made from it? Maybe Toby knows, I don't, and that's something I'd like to talk about in an offsite conversation. So thanks, Toby, and we'll see you on Saturday, I hope.
Right on. Thank you, Jim. Harry?
Yeah, Steve, I just wanted to mention, Toby was talking about the fact that how inconvenient or almost impossible it is for someone from the school district to attend this meeting. Maybe it'd be a good idea if someone from PROS could attend a school district meeting at 7 o'clock in the evening, and the school district could have an agenda item discussing what it is that we're talking about right now.
Thank you, Harry, for that. Miss Amade, that's at you, because you're a school district meeting attender. All right, anybody else? Toby, you got your hand up again. Is that me, or can I? How do I unmute?
I think it's remaining.
He can't hear us. All right, I'm gonna hold on.
And anybody else out there in the public who doesn't realize it, if you go down the bottom of your screen, a variety thing will pop up which says raise hand on it. So it's way at the bottom in case you're looking for the yellow hand.
Okay, there we go. Oh, this is what I do. We have a couple of public comments from the general public that I'm supposed to read. Lauren Younger has wanted to know do you have the county contract for the rodeo grounds available on your site? If not, where can we find it? Also, I would appreciate it if you would provide the community with a list of the county's requirements and refer to where we can find them in the contract. Thanks. I don't even know how to answer that.
Well, could I butt in here, Steve?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I keep hearing this exists all the time with the county tells us what to do and what not to do. And that's really another reason to have one sitting out here that knows that stuff. Otherwise, we depend on Carlos pretty much as the historical basis of the whole thing. But I've never seen that same list as she's talking about, and I'm really kind of curious about it too. And I think that's an agenda item for next time, if there ever was one, that we could call this list out and find out what the county has said for all of us, because we hear about it all the time. I've never seen it. I don't know what's cast in concrete, what's not. So maybe if we get the county and the list at the next meeting on the screen here, we'd have an answer to that.
Yeah, I don't think there is a contract or a list, right?
Well,
If
it's
you
got
want
to
to
be an
comment on it,
environmental document. Whatever they replied to us in a letter is what we're after.
I think Kitty might have a comment.
Kitty?
So, yeah, I'm pretty aware of the foundational documents, I'm not Joe Allen, but I know the foundational documents for the ranch, which the East Ranch is part of the ranch and is covered by the same documents, the EIR, the management plan. I'm unaware of any contract with the county, and this is the first time I've ever heard of a list of what?
Well, I hear it all the time. When we were talking with Carlos, he says the county won't let us do this, won't let us do that on the trail systems and so forth.
Oh, yeah, that's in the management plan. And the management plan is on the CCSD website.
Okay,
That's been on the CCSD website for, I don't know, since they had a website probably.
so that's the only, we read that and that's the gospel the county has given us.
It's not the county.
It's not a county document, yeah.
Okay,
Tim was there probably.
Maybe you're confusing it with, the management plan is the management plan, and if it needs to be changed, it's up to us and the holder. The county, the rumor that comes around is that the county contributed $500,000 toward the purchase of the ranch as a comment at the Board of Supervisors meeting when they approved the budget and the money. It was, hey, we need more active recreation in the county. That was all it is. It wasn't a mandate or a dictate, but it was an accommodation that was expected. That's all I understand.
Yeah, and if I may say, some of us that are active recreational enthusiasts have kind of acted like that's the law written in land, that they gave us that money and we need to do active recreation there. And if you don't do active recreation there, then you're denying what it is that they gave us, and we're going to have to give that money back. That's just hyperbolic, Hey, let's get some fields for these kids. Julie.
Sorry, Steve. Toby was in and somehow he got kicked out, and he's trying to get back in. Is there a way to let him back in? You see him there?
Oh. Yeah, what have I done to him?
I don't know. He's been released. So just know that if there's any questions for Toby, to please say them and he can text me the answers, but he wants to make himself available. So thank you.
Tell him I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't see him on my list anymore.
Yeah, he's having trouble getting back in. So
That's what happens when I'm the administrator. All right, any other questions?
I just checked the bookshelf. I don't see any county agreement.
Just a question. How does the NCAC come into play concerning the county? Aren't they supposedly meeting with a county supervisor and letting them know what we want or what we need?
Jim?
Well, the NCAC really is an ad hoc committee, so to speak, that some supervisors in the county have. While our landslide winner, Mr. Gibson, does fund it in a small way. Some supervisors don't have such a committee, but they are since it's the supervisors advisory committee, he comes and makes presentations to it. The NCAC is far more influential on Cambria and our area, because they don't just cover just the Cambria CSD property, they cover the whole area, and they cover it very well for land use issues. Land use, the CCSD doesn't have any authority over land use. It's, all of the things that go on in, as far as building and et cetera, is really an NCAC bailiwick, and they're good at what they do and important to advise the supervisor, but the supervisor also has a large staff of people that can help them do things otherwise. So NCAC is a good organization, but different.
Kermit?
Yeah, I'm a member of the NCAC, and it's a good idea to get their support on paper like we did for the trail that I proposed, but functionally, they have no teeth. So it's a good to do thing.
Kitty?
I would say NCAC is a very easy direct conduit to county government. The supervisor's there every time, the head, our local planning people are there. The person who's in charge of policy for the supervisor are there. The safety people are there. You might actually ask NCAC to include a recreation person in that meeting, since the county people are already going to that meeting, and then have someone from pros go to that meeting. It is a very long nighttime meeting, very long.
Yeah, that's a drawback to that. Adolph, thanks for volunteering to be the NCAC representative. Thank you.
Well,
Can't make it
since
that
I go
evening.
there.
All right, I've got one more letter I need to read in the general public. Thank you for asking for public input for improvements to the East Ranch in Cambria, the increased efforts to ban unleashed dogs in the Fiscalini Ranch limits Cambria's habits of hiking and wandering with their dogs. As a result, the need for dog and people walking areas has increased. We would like to see the current boundaries of the dog park in East Ranch expanded considerably so that the dogs and their people could hike around a meadow loop trail. Owners and dogs could continue to use the current dog park as it's confined, but others could wander and sniff along a trail. Our guess is that a meadow trail loop would be designed to be a wheelchair easily accessible. We recognize this would require additional fencing to protect dogs and wildlife, and there might be interruption to the wildlife corridors. Since dogs are members of so many Cambria families, we hope the compromise needed would be embraced by many. I've had dogs for much of my life and have always seen walking with them as one of the true world's pleasures. What is it that they say about golf? A good walk spoiled. Walking your dog is the opposite. It's a walk indefinitely enhanced by your dog's absolute delight. You can't help but share some of it. Mike White on how to walk a dog, and that's from Steve and from Susan and Steve Betts and Susan M. Baxter. So we'd like to thank them for that letter. Any statements on that? Boom. All right. We're not going to go down the dog park trail right now. That takes us into our next agenda situation, which is facility and resource managers report. There's nobody here from the CCSD, correct? So then we'll go on into the consent agenda. Can I get a motion for the approval of the regular minutes held from the December 6th, 2022 meeting?
Steve, just before that, do you mind? I will make that motion, but to approve the minutes. But prior to that, if Carlos isn't here, maybe we could have had the interim general manager also invited in this in case he had CCSD issues.
I got a note that he wasn't going to be here this morning either.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah,
He's on vacation.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Therefore, I move that we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
I've got a motion from Jim, a second from Terry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion, I need to write that down. Minutes, Jim and Terry. Okay, beautiful. All right, now into what is on the agenda, regular business discussions of our goals. Well, one of the goals is that we're going to have to vote for new officers and somebody else is going to have to lead this thing. How about that as a goal?
Steve, I think that the applications have been put out for new members, and that's going to be addressed at our next pros meeting. And I think for as far as officers, we should not vote on that today. Officers.
No, we're not going to vote on that today because it's not on the agenda. I mean, I don't know if it needs to be on the agenda.
Okay. So I think we should accept the applications. I think they're due on the 16th of January or something like that, and move that topic to the next meeting.
Yes, and not that I want to be too Kevin McCarthy like and plot my future, But I do believe that if we're to get new leadership, leadership should come from the group that's already here and not from a new member. Not that that would be, not cast in stone, but that would be my feeling initially. So we all need to examine our souls.
We all have opinions.
Yes. Julie.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Ray, and I know he's not on the call, but we talked about getting it out to the public and making it more fluid and accessible for them to understand how to even get on to any type of an ad hoc committee, whether it's here or with CCSD on finance, policy, infrastructure planning. And they did that. They jumped right on it. I saw it twice as a community member, and it's on the CCSD website. So Harry, if you don't mind taking that back, it's a big thank you to at least make an initial run at trying to engage the public. Now, whether or not they do anything with that and get inspired, to Steve's point of searching your soul and seeing where you want to put your time and make impact. Obviously we can't answer that, but at least it's out there. And I thought they did a really thorough job on explaining how to, and the application is super simple. It's one click. It takes 2 minutes to fill out and send to Haley on where you want to put your time and on what committee, including pros. So I just wanted to give a shout out to say thank you to Ray, CCSD, and Harry, if you don't mind taking that back. I think it's a great step in doing a better job with communication to the public.
Thank you. Kermit?
Yeah, I've got 3 goals. One is that we consider that we discuss and flesh out a little more clearly our relationship with the nonprofits, how we want to handle this, but to expand our scope throughout the community by making a little more formal structure. Either we go to them or they come to us, or somehow we make this known. And that would be including a structure that would include a county representative here on the panel monthly when we meet. That's goal number 1. 2, I'd like to propose more of a going back and look at a travel plan or trail plan for the community for this commuter bicycle trail, which satisfies a little bit of the walking requirements, the way it's laid out. But we are going to have more federal money coming, possibly to the county, that we can apply for next October. And they'll be announcing that, I think, what share they had. It's the same thing we had last year, but until that's an easy thing to pick. That's for safety, it's for street crossings, it's for whatever. But there's a couple of projects that would be very suitable, like going under the bridge, on the third span of the bridge on the near the Fiscalini Ranch as it crosses over to East Ranch. If we could get that key link, get people off the road, that's a really big safety item, and that's what this grant goes for, is safety features. So we should set ourselves up for some of these things when we see them coming and we know about them. The second one is, let's see, that was the second one, and the other one is just continue fleshing out as the ad hoc committee is doing on the completion of the addition of items to the East Ranch. That includes the funding and the community support and funding of the possible 3 projects that we have proposed and want to implement. So that's 3. I propose those 3.
Jim?
I'd second that, and I think that the wise thing, what we haven't done in the past is we've assumed we didn't have any budget, and we didn't go and at the right time of the year. This may not be the right time of the year, but certainly in our charter, we should be developing having projects with a given funding and go to the CCSD and say that this is what we need for this coming year. And along with Kermit, to make sure that we don't let we try and get some of these projects much more shovel ready, so that if the government comes out with some money, that we're ready to have it. I remember I don't know, it's been 8 years ago when we had a potential desal plant here. We put the desal plant in. We had to finish it within 1 year. We're very restricted, but we got $4 million. We got $4 million from the state because we had a shovel-ready project and completed it within time. So $4 million, and nobody else could get the money, even though they tried to, because they didn't have shovel-ready projects and it was off in the future. So you can get money if you have the projects done, and I applaud Kermit on trying to make sure that we have these in the agenda and make them happen.
Thank you, Jim. Julie?
Should I talk about Saturday now? Because it seems relevant.
Hold on. Yeah, let's do it. Kermit, did you have something you wanted to add? No.
It was a fourth one of just a tie on with Jim's thing about funding. Our request is, although I think the grant writer ought to be part of the CCSD more so than the pros commission, we ought to have that grant writer on hand as an active person that we can shovel to when something comes up, instead of walking around in big circles saying, well, how do we do this? And the county sort of, or the board sort of, well, we don't know either. That's it.
Thank you. Julie?
All right, well, I know we're working as a team. Kermit and Terry, I want to thank you for your time committed, and I know we look forward to seeing you continue to be part of these meetings. Jim, for joining on with ad hoc. We've had 2 successful meetings. We have our 3rd meeting coming up this coming Saturday, and it is because of rain, because it looks like a 50% forecast. We're playing it safe. It will be at Cambria Coffee, very informally, because they've got that upstairs room. And it will be at 9 o'clock. There'll be coffee accessible, because we certainly want to take care of our business there. And of course, light bites, you can get them there as well. We hope to just do the meeting in an hour, but if it goes a little bit longer, you know, the idea is to keep creativity going with what we already have in topic on these viable projects. To Kermit and Jim's point, you know, pros can't submit an application for any type of a grant writer. So the application has to go through CCSD. So I think the more committed and shovel ready to the point where we're narrowing down the viable projects, so that the grant writer, to Harry's compliment, where he made the suggestion on how we potentially could maybe look to put a part-time or full-time grant writer on staff, no commitment yet, but at least it was put out there on behalf of CCSD, would then allow us to take that specific project to them to be looking for that type of grant. We also have the $19,000 that is given to pros. Last year it went unused, and that broke my heart. I have to tell you, to hand money back to CCSD, can we please spend it? And you know, this is just me putting in based on what we're getting from these meetings. And by the way, we've got 28 people on our constant contact list already. I'm happy to report that 27 of the 28 opened the email. And so it's telling me that they do care and they are listening. And it was only because one bounced, and I'm going to get that email corrected this Saturday. So this Saturday, we will be going over the petition that we would like to construct. This petition is simply being put together to be able to go to the public, to be a belly-to-belly type of communication with our public, to say, these are the 3 viable projects we're suggesting. Multi-use trail, exercise circuit, and a potential Frisbee golf. And again, not guaranteed, we're just saying, do these 3 projects interest you? They are low impact, feasible, financially feasible recreational projects that could complement the East Ranch. I have to tell you, I'm out there, I'm talking to people, and I'm getting their feedback in this space, Steve, and many in this community, and Kitty, to all that you do, in respect to all that you do, they love our open space. They cherish it, and they don't want it, many don't want it touched, right? So I feel like when we use low impact, viable projects, the word low impact really works. In other words, it's not going and doing grand fields and lighting, and it's simply saying, what can we do today? And these 3 projects seem very doable. So Saturday's goal is to flush out the petition so that we can get it in a form where we can go to the public and just collect signatures. And those signatures would be very similar to what we did with the skate park, to take it back to CCSD, because that's what they've taxed us to do. They've said, please let us know what the community wants. What are those projects? That's what CCSD asked of this ad hoc. At least that was my understanding when we formed it. So the goal would be to then maybe, over the next 2 or 3 months, collect those signatures and then report them to CCSD and say, look at these individuals in our community are all behind these 3 viable projects. So 9 o'clock this Saturday. Any questions?
I have a comment that, Julie, I know what we were trying to do, but and I'm part of the ad hoc, but I think we're remiss if we don't have an other. Yes, these are the 3 projects. They're going to wind up winning hands down. There's no doubt about it.
No, we have other, Jim. I apologize if I did
Okay.
not mention that. We do. And it's a very good point. And we do have other.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
just so that if somebody wanted a high impact thing, at least we get some feedback that it's happening. Okay, thanks.
For sure, for sure. No, totally agree with you.
Kermit,
I just have, if they're done with that conversation, I just have one more 4th goal. If
well, hold on. I want to hear Adolph and Harry. You look like you wanted to get in there. Adolph?
I was just looking at the letter that came through about the May 12th, 2022, May 12th, 2022 Board of Directors meeting, talking about community park projects. And it had there were 2 other pages to it. One of them had 4 projects on current viable projects, and the other was major projects on the community park. And I noticed that the current viable projects just included things like benches, a loop trail, trash enclosures, and temporary restroom. Those were the ones that they considered to be current viable projects. And I noticed that Julie had mentioned another one, and I'm not sure whether that's on that, will be placed on that list, or someone will report to CCSD where we are in those situations.
Julie?
Yeah, I'll add in on that, I think the benches and the trash or stuff, those are kind of givens. We know that those are going to be able to happen. Again, it was multi-use trails, the exercise circuit, and potentially a Frisbee golf course. And so the thought of those being viable are already, we know that the bathroom is also in process right now. So we really already took the accounting to say, we know those are getting done. What next? Fair? Does that?
Well, the loop trail to me is still open in the sense of Carlos wanted to draw on sort of, even though the plans don't quite mesh because things have changed a little, just a simple loop, and then we'd probably do and then the exercise circuit would have to be stationed off that. I think there's possibly other, as we talk about dog walks and so forth, that people would like a little bit better selection of choice on where that trail would go for their purposes. And I frankly, I can think of a few things. The east-west trail on that thing, is kind of fixed in the character that it is, almost a 2-track, the commuter trail type thing. But the other loop trail depends on where the golf course might go, or the Frisbee golf course might go, and possibly where the trail circuit, how it's laid out in lumps or scattered along the trail. And then do we want that a separate situation there? So I think the trail's loose. That's all I'm saying.
Jim?
Just real quick, I know went over an hour already, but just to Julie's comment, I think that the money that we had, the Pros Commission has, goes until June. It's a fiscal year. I'd like to confirm that next month to make sure that we still have that 19 grand.
That's an agenda item. Yeah.
Yeah, because we want to spend it, Steve. Want to spend every penny of it.
Right. Good question.
Go ahead, Adolph.
Excuse me. So Usually, you usually give an address to the CCSD board. Is that usually the second meeting of the month?
My address,
Yes.
the first meeting of the month, but it's the second Tuesday.
Okay, I was just curious whether or not you ought to include the ad hoc committee as part of your presentation, and both you and they give a presentation.
Anybody that wants to show up at the second Tuesday, I can get them airtime. Harry,
Steve, it's second Thursday.
second Thursday, my bad. I'm sorry, Thursday, not Tuesday.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Also, Steve, not that, I'm sure everybody caught what Julie said with regard to the location of the meeting this Saturday at the Cambria Coffee, right next to the Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to make sure, I know that everybody caught that, but I just wanted to
Yeah, thank you.
mention it again.
Thank you, Harry. Upstairs. Yeah.
Right.
Julie, anything else?
Yeah, I want to add in, I know that on the agenda, it says discussion and consideration of 2023 pros goals. So I'm going to ask if it's possible that as we put the goals in place, that they're a little bit more definitive, kind of like what Kermit talked about starting at the very beginning of the meeting, that as we define these agendas, they're more definitive. And I would really love for that to be where we are committing as a, again, I'm coming at this as a community member in this ad hoc committee, but we are committing to some type of a viable project, trying to accomplish one thing. Does that make, am I making sense? So we are at least not just going month to month. And it just feels like we could be getting much more accomplished quicker if we were focused on definitive goals. And I really feel like today's meeting, that was part of what we were laying out for 2023. One might be understanding that 19,000 and where else is the rest of the money going, but can we actually back into these viable projects and make them reality? Does that make sense?
Yes. Adolph?
So should we actually just move this into the February meeting? And the reason I'm talking about it is that we have new members on the board, and the board is made up of folks who have served more than a couple of years, and I thought maybe it might be a good opportunity to get them versed in what we do and how we do it.
One thing that's very clear, if you read the bylaws really, to Michael Calderwood's attention, he's been saying, hey, let's have some process, let's do something, and Julie's bringing it up, let's have definitive goals. But if you go through the bylaws, and we should be asking for a budget and almost demanding a budget that can satisfy our needs, or get told by the board why we can't have it. And if we can't have it, then how, it also goes on to say how we're supposed to be reaching out for grants, how we're supposed to be reaching out to others to get things to happen. So if we do what the bylaws say, and I suppose today is a good thing to put, those things in concrete, the year's goals in concrete. But I agree with Kermit, with Adolph, that next month that should be something on the agenda, is to say this is what we're going to be doing this following year specifically, and we'll have our ad hoc done and so on and so forth. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Harry?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Adolph, just related to the fact that it'd be nice if the new members of the board got, were more aware, more involved, so to speak. Both of them are attending this meeting. So just to let us all know that.
Well,
Kermit?
how many new members are going to be? One.
Deborah Scott and Michael Thomas are the new members of the CCSD Board of Directors, and they're both attending this meeting.
But I don't think they can, it's not an agendized meeting. They really can't. I'm glad they're here listening, but and Harry, we were talking about new members of the pros commission. I think that's the disconnect.
Oh, my bad. Thank you. Sorry.
Kermit?
I was going to move on to number 4, since if we've done with that one.
Well,
I was going to also suggest we only get 12 meetings a year.
what's that?
I'd move as fast as we could. We're not going to have that many members on this board that are going to change anything.
Well,
will
I
drag
just-
along and next year they'll catch it, but I'm not sure how long, and we can always change them. But I wouldn't hesitate too long to indoctrinate one person. And Just speed is of the essence.
I just get frustrated with goal. I'm just not a goal maker. I'm a ditch digger. We make goals. We've wasted a whole meeting making goals and we could have been digging the ditch instead of making the goals. And then I'm just like, we're gonna write them down definitively. Who's gonna write them down? We literally don't have anybody to write them down. And then where are they gonna go? Where do they physically go, our goals? Somewhere. I've got years of goals that we haven't accomplished. I've sat at meetings. We got in trouble because our goals weren't aligned properly to go with ever. And we're burning my life with this silly stuff. And I'm just like, all right, it's time for somebody else to lead it and go to these meetings and make these goals. That's how I feel. Kitty.
I can share some of your feelings, Steve, but in my personal life, I've never really set any goals, and that's somehow worked out okay. But at work, I always have goals and then achieve them, and it's good. It doesn't have to be an endless process of setting goals, but you
this
got to
isn't
know
a
where you're
job.
going
This
in
is
order to
all
get there.
volunteer work. Who's gonna write those goals down?
The note taker will write them down.
But who wants to take notes? Joyce.
Joyce
But
takes
she does
notes.
not, yeah, it's just, but then
Joyce will
she's
take-
responsible. That should be a staff job. Joyce as a volunteer should not be legally responsible for the words she writes down.
No,
Unless it's minutes and then we okay them.
I disagree. I think the minutes can be taken to the board.
Well, so then that's what the goals are. We just write them in the minutes and that's all they are. And it's really
take-
just slapping along.
Okay, whatever.
I
No,
found
but that's
volunteers to
where
be-
I'm at personally. It's like if we're all weighing in here, it's like, all right. I mean, literally, which one of us is going to lead this thing, right? And reorganize this thing. And at this stage of your life, dedicate hundreds of hours to this goal, which you know it's going to take.
Well, Julie's done this with the skate park as a volunteer.
And
Hundreds of hours.
and she has dedicated the last 4 years of her life to this thing.
Right, but a lot of the goals can be much simpler to do. We have volunteers here at Fiscalini Ranch, and I've worked with previous ones who set their goals, they achieve them. They do excellent work, and it doesn't seem to diminish their lives.
I would say in some ways it enhances their lives.
Go. Look what we've done for Steve, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Woo! All right, what are we gonna do?
I-
My goal is the skate park. That's my number one goal. We got a project. It's a skate park.
Okay,
Everything
put
else is just
Get it
whatever.
Oh, we've
that
got
down
other
as a
ones.
fourth goal, and I'll add a fifth one here. I want to add one more goal.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, first I have to ask Harry, was the Vets Hall in or out of our jurisdiction? Was that an assignment to us, or do we even not worry about money for the Vets Hall?
You know, I'm not so sure I can really clarify that at this time. I do know that there's a small group of us that met last month and are going to be meeting again this month with regard to how we best approach improving the Vets Hall, which is going to take money, but also I think the main concern is, and this might be off the topic of what you're addressing here, is that the Vets Hall is not a money-making proposition. It costs more to keep it going than it does gaining any kind of revenue from events that take place there. I will have to, I think the next time we have a meeting, and I'll also check in with Carlos to see if in fact activities at the Vets Hall should be part of PROS.
Well, my point is, if Vets Hall to me should be an infrastructure committee oversight, not the PROS, because we really don't have, plan around it or anything like that. But if it is the PROS, this is another grant writer thing, and we ought to just ask for money And if not, apply for it in any way we can, but at least quit kicking it down the road because it obviously needs work. But again, I think it's an infrastructure thing. So that would be one of the objectives, is obtain money for the thing, if that's one of our goals. Otherwise, get it off our slate. So we need to be in or out of it because we just can't ignore it anymore. And again, infrastructure is the most likely place to put that responsibility of obtaining money.
Jim,
I agree with Kermit that that might be the direction that the CCSD should go as far as trying to find somebody responsible for it, as opposed to pros. However, there is a meeting at 11 a.m. About the Vets Hall on the 10th, and it's not agendized, so there's no reason for the Brown Act to come into place. If you have an opinion, Kermit, and you want to be at that meeting, fine. And it's an informal meeting. And there's only one director there that I know of, and some people from the American Legion and the Chamber and other people. So, and a Lions Club person might be there. So,
did I miss that meeting? When is that meeting, Jim?
It's at 11 a.m. on the 10th, isn't it, Harry?
Yeah, Steve, you were there. Dick Clark was there from Cambridge Community Council. And
Yeah,
it's,
and we
it's at the Legion.
Yeah, and we made a second meeting date, actually.
Right, and it's the 10th of January. Put it on your calendar, Steve.
I'm gonna. What time?
11, I thought. But it's not agendized, so if anybody wants to come there, you don't have to worry about Brown Act and all that kind of crap.
Next Tuesday.
Which is a problem with the ad hoc committees, in my opinion. They're Brown Act ones, and the public can't come and go as they wish, and anyway, as well, but that's a different issue. So have a good one.
I'm
Are
keen
we
to
just about
that.
done?
Yeah,
Uh-oh, Kermit's got another.
Kermit. All right,
Okay.
so what are we doing with the goals here? Help me.
Well, I would say that one, let's just modify it when it pops up again and throw it into the kitty to get the goal writer on it, make an application. But otherwise, give it to the infrastructure committee, but get it funded in some fashion. We're either in or out of it. I don't think we're in it. And if we could shuffle it to somebody more responsible, like the infrastructure committee, who likes that kind of stuff.
You're referring to the Vets Hall.
Yes.
All right. I'm
Only the
referring
Vets
just to
Hall.
our overall goals and how we're going to accomplish something on this agenda item.
Yeah, if we're responsible for the Vets Hall, we need to be responsible and take action on it. And if we're not,
Kermit, when you're referring to the infrastructure committee, are you referring to the resources and infrastructure committee?
probably, I
District?
can't spell very well. Yeah, but you're right. Whatever that one is.
Thank you.
Julie? Give me some direction.
Okay, so the goals, to Kitty's point, they don't need to be overwhelming, Steve. I really think what I'm trying to do is just say, what are we looking to try to accomplish in 2023 as a group? And it can be as broad as just saying, we're going to try to accomplish to execute at least one of the 3 viable projects. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means, to Jim's point, that you're going to need to understand the cost, presenting the cost and working the budget to CCSD so that we can get it funded and built. That's it. Done. I mean, it's not meant to be overwhelming. It's meant to be able to say, here's our definitive, what we're working towards.
So that's the goal then this year?
Well, it's just, I mean,
Until you want to
CCSD
revise them.
yeah,
So
CCSD
the
has
skate park's not a goal then?
Of course, no. So this, absolutely, the skate park would be to complete it, right? The goal would be to potentially have it be shovel ready and begin by the fall of 2023, which has been told to us, Steve, you know this, that it's very possible that that could happen. So one of the goals could be to continue to support and facilitate getting the skate park completed. That could be a goal. The other goal could then be working with ad hoc to, flush out the viable projects and at least accomplish one of the 3 viable projects. That could be a goal. So at the end of the year, we can go check, check. Yay, we did those. Awesome. Because what I've seen go on in the past is because there isn't anything that is a goal, nobody knows what they're actually working towards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, put it on the agenda. So
Yeah,
that-
but there's nobody working. Everybody's a
There is, Steve.
volunteer, so there's no staff, there's no money. How do you get anything done?
Because, well, wait. I want to answer that. We
So
are
I'm
working.
like, all right.
No. I want to give you some encouragement, Steve. Okay. The skate
I mean,
park
we're
is
saying
working.
all these words and I'm like, I'm not writing
Yeah.
those words down. I'm not
the skate
writing, I'm
park is
not in
already
high school.
doing.
Writing words makes me sick to my stomach.
It's
Right.
okay.
All pros needs to be doing that on a monthly basis is checking in the sense that right now, Jim, Kermit and I and Terry have committed to moving the viable projects forward and reporting to you guys as to where we are. We're doing the work.
All you
The
need is
skate
another
park's
ad
already
hoc
in motion.
committee to do the infrastructure one
Right.
of
That's
the,
right.
that's all. Get an application out.
I'm just asking, can we make sure that everybody has assignments so that they know what they need to do to
Yeah.
help to get us where we need to go? Does that make sense?
Steve, is your big objection that you don't want to write them down? Because, I'll write them down.
I don't really want to be I got run through the ringer and I sat with the Admiral as he told me all this awesomeness stuff about what it was, about how structure and how government and all that bullshit works. And then he takes off and he burned my life. And I don't want to sit through that again. I'm like, dude, I'm in the trenches. I'm trying to make this community better. I don't need to write words down on a piece of paper to get goals done. Go out and do the work. Quit writing stuff down so much. Pick up a hammer.
Well, make an ad hoc committee and make them write on
Yeah,
paper.
another committee. Great.
Yeah, that's your only tool.
Right? I want goals to be 3 words: skate park, East Ranch, bike trails. 3 words. That's our goals.
Fine, write them
That's
down.
something.
Not spend
Okay.
money, not spend the 19 grand on cleaning up the homeless encampment. That's where our money's been going all the time.
Well, that backs into the goals. In other words, I agree with you, Steve. In other words, if the goals were there, then it would be, oh, now we have this $19,000. And remember, these are our goals. So how are we going to apply the $19,000? But we are working. I mean, I want to give you encouragement in this space to say, I think we've got a very good momentum on these viable projects. Kermit, I mean, are you feeling the same way I am? I mean,
I do. Don't let my negativity think that we're not going to put I've almost got the money for the Frisbee thing. So
Right.
we're on
Right.
this thing. I'm just more, the machinations of government are just killing me, having to go to meeting after meeting after meeting when it's just, we're not going anywhere. We need money. Julie's raising money. That's the goal. Get money. If we get money, we get stuff done.
Yeah, that's what we do. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do according to our bylaws.
But I feel like CCSD, to Jim's point, they can be giving us more money than $19,000.
Yeah.
Right.
We
Right?
never asked for it.
That gives this group more power. I mean, the hardest thing about pros is you can come up with wonderful creative ideas, to your point, Steve, but without money, you can't execute them, right? And
Yeah.
so that goes back to Jim's point, and that is we need to have the goals to be more organized, to deliver the information and say, here you go. This is what you've asked of us. And I feel like we've got a whole different board in play right now. I am so excited about this board. President Dean and Ray sitting as acting general manager right now. It's just a different personality set, Steve.
Right.
And I feel like they're going to get it. I really do. And it's not
We
to
had fun this year, Steve. Yeah.
Yeah, not to say, that's no insult to any of the board members in the past. I'm just saying we collectively have a group right now that seems to really want to be able to not put so many hurdles in place. That's just the way I feel. That's just my opinion.
Why can't we address the board, ask for a grant writer, but also combine that grant writer's duties with helping us put together some of these things? Otherwise, it would be a full-time position. Part of their job is to write grants when they come up. the other part of it is to help us put together what we need to put together in writing.
I love it. I think that's a great idea. It's just another use of their time, you know? I mean, even if it's a part-time person and they don't have a viable project or a specific project to be writing a grant for, they could be, you know, wordsmithing, putting it together in a way that's presentable to CCSD. Steve, I'm with you. I mean, I don't want to run around chasing my tail. I mean, it's horribly exhausting.
So let's say this, let's say someone else will write our goals. Can we vote on goals in a simplistic form? Would that be okay? If we said skate park, East Ranch, something, and then somebody else, whether it be Kitty or Jim or somebody wrote down the correct wording on it?
Well,
Well, you've-
I'll write down the
you've done it in
wording
the
on it.
past.
If you want me to write the goals down, I'll write them down.
Okay,
I'll
So-
send you goals.
Kermit has volunteered to write the goals down. Now we need to give him the goals.
I got 4. Or I got 3. I had organization, trail plan, continue obtain a grant writer and an organization to suitable for obtaining money, and then through government grants, and then Vets Hall, is that in or out? That's 4th one. So I can give you 3 written down.
But skate park wasn't in that.
Yeah,
I'll put skate park in. I'd only left it out because Julie was there.
yeah, skate park. Selfishly, I'm gonna put that to the top of the list. Skate park and then viable projects. In other words, you know, work towards completing a viable project.
Yeah,
I think these
I don't
viable
think-
projects, one of them can be completed by the end of this year. They're not that difficult.
Well, why don't I make a set and send them to you? And then we'll send those, you send those to Steve. You're like working with it. I'll send them to everyone,
Thank you.
plus everyone with
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Kermit, haven't you mentioned at the beginning of this meeting and at the previous meeting that one of your goals was to restructure the pros commission?
Yes.
And
I think he addressed that in the organization scheme, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, but if you read the bylaws, and I think Kermit, you have since the meeting, it's pretty clear that there is a direction that we should go with, and rather than spending time on changing, reorganizing, the organization, make sure we include others. But
Okay.
I think if we've read 4 goals, thank you very much, Kermit, and thank you, Julie. And we're ready to move on. We'll, and unless there's other further business, maybe we should.
Yeah.
move
I'm with
forward.
you. Are you comfortable? So somebody needs to make the motion.
What? Oh. Kermit, go for it.
I saw, what do you mean on the grant or the?
On the goals.
Goals.
Goals. I will rewrite and use the word reorganization out and just say framework for inclusion of, I hate the word inclusion, of
Representation.
nonprofits and community activists, that we include them in our structure.
I'll second that, and we should approve it at the next meeting.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, we can approve all this next meeting. I'll send them out for consideration. We can
okay.
have them.
So we'll read them at the next meeting. All right, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor of that idea, signify by when we're gonna say go to that. All right, any other future agenda items?
Accept applications and act on them.
All right, so we've got goals, applications, what else?
That's all.
Oh, Vets Hall.
That's it.
3 items is good. We don't need more.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for enduring. Anybody else? Keep up the good work, people. Life is good. Yes, sir.
Take a Valium.
Ah, hell.
You're a good man.
Hey, I love feeling like this. right?
Steve, thank you for all that you
It's
do.
all passion based. It's all good. All right, awesome. You guys have a good day. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Thank you.